Hi, it's Juan. I'm here to talk to you about the lack of popularity of soccer in the United States. So, according to FIFA, the governing body of world soccer, they say that 250 million football players and over 1.3 billion people were interested in the sport at the turn of the 21st century. So, it is the world's most popular sport. So it's the world's most popular sport, but why isn't it that popular in the United States? It never really caught on. There are three reasons why the sport never really caught on. The first reason is that there is a lack of youth infrastructure in the United States for the sport. The second one is there's a low national soccer prestige for the United States. And the third is that it's a low scoring defensive game. So I'll tell you a little bit about each one of them, just to let you know what I meant by that. So the first one that I said was the lack of youth infrastructure for the sport of soccer. What I mean by that is that everyone grows up, all Americans grow up knowing about football, knowing about baseball, knowing about basketball. Not everyone grows up learning about football. So, so not everyone understands the sport or the strategy. So that makes a lot of people not want to watch it. Um, the fact that in soccer you have players that they get breathed on a little too hard and they flop over. It turns off a lot of Americans from watching the sport. That's because they're used to the NFL. They're used to contact sports. So when they see that, they like, what was that? I guarantee you that there's strategy behind that. There's a reason why they do that. A lot of the times, that creates a free kick, which allows the team to sometimes turn the game around and win the game. So, with winning games, I'm going to talk to you about the second reason why. Second reason why is that the U.S. has not won too many games. What I mean by that is that they haven't competed at the world stage and won any big trophies in a while. The last time they won was they were third place in the FIFA World Cup in 1930. So it's not necessarily a win, but we we competed at that level. Um, we don't compete at that level because, like I said before, we don't have the infrastructure, the scouting, the big national players. Um, Spain Portugal has Cristiano Ronaldo, uh, Argent, Argent, the Argentine Lionel Messi, um, and there's the Brazilian Pele. Everybody knows all these players, but the U.S. doesn't really have any. You might know who Clint Dempsey is, or Landon Donovan, or Bradley, or any of those. But other than that, we don't have any big caliber players, which is probably the reason why we don't win at that level. Um, so we don't have the scouting either, uh, because we have such a large country. Uh, so Will Parchman wrote an article for Howler magazine called "What's Wrong with American Youth Soccer Development." It's dated March 30, 2016, and he said, "If a promising 11-year-old player surfaces in Missoula, Montana, he is far more likely to wither on the vine than be picked for the harvest." So what he means by that is that since our scouting system is not set up for soccer, these players will either just not get to the professional level, or they'll get herded over to the NFL or to the NBA, and they'll continue their athletic careers on that side because it just doesn't exist for soccer. So outside of lacking the talent pool to compete at that level, let's say we did have the talent pool. Um, could you sit down and watch the sport? Um, so, Americans need their Chuck Norrises. They need their Hulkamanias. They need their John McClanes, from Die Hard. They need that over-the-top action. With soccer, you don't get that. In the NFL, you have, scores of 50 to 30 or 30 to 20 or scores like that. In the NBA, you have 100 to 90 or 100 to 80. So those points and those scores are a lot higher. In soccer, you don't get those amount of points. You'll get one or two goals. So what I mean by that is that soccer is a low scoring defensive sport. According to Statista.com, they said that the average amount of goals per game at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil was 2.7 goals. According to the article The Great Leveling by Chris Anderson and David Sully, found on Slate.com, soccer is a defensive sport which has led to the decline in goals per game worldwide. So if you look at the charts, the amount of goals per game just slowly have declined. Soccer has really developed in the defensive aspect, and it's hard for Americans to come watch a soccer game when you don't even know if you're going to watch a goal, if you're going to see one goal throughout the game. A reason for that is that in soccer, it's a lot harder to control a ball with your feet and try to get a goal by getting past 11 men and one which uses his hands, which no other player on the field can do. It almost gives the defense an advantage over the offense. So you won't see that many goals. So just to recap, I told you about one, the lack of understanding of the sport in America due to us not growing up playing soccer. We grew up playing football or basketball or baseball, but not soccer, so we don't understand it that well. The second reason is that we have low national prestige on the sport. We don't compete very well at the Olympics or at the World Cup because we just don't have the big players due to, like I said, the lack of scouting and just growing up playing the sport. And the third reason I told you was that it's a low-scoring defensive game, which leads to what some people view it as not that exciting. Luckily, soccer is growing in the United States. The MLS has grown the sport, incredibly over the last couple of years, and we have our women's national team who have won at the World Cup level and at the Olympic level. So, the sport can only get better. Hopefully my speech was informative to you, and hopefully it was compelling, and thank you for listening.